Some borders are simply markings on a map, unseen, unnoticed, and just unremarkable. But there are some that define the brink of completely separate worlds. From striking contrasts in prosperity and design to abrupt shifts in weather, tradition, or even time itself, these borders show just how profoundly different life can be on opposite sides of a single line. So join us as we explore 15 borders where taking just a few steps means stepping into a very different reality. Number 15, North Korea. South Korea border. Nowhere else on Earth is the difference between two sides of a border more extreme or more explosive than at the Korean demilitarized zone. A 250-kilometer-long, 4-kilometer-wide stretch of tension, concrete and razor wire. It divides the Republic of Korea, South Korea, from the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, which is North Korea. This isn't just a boundary, it's a frozen front line, a relic of war, and still unresolved hostility. On the South Korean side, cities like Seoul, only 35 miles away, thrive with economic momentum and digital infrastructure. South Korea boasts one of the world's highest GDPs per capita, a dominant cultural presence, and a military powered by cutting-edge U.S. support. Just meters north, it's like stepping into another era. North Korea is cloaked in silence, shadows, and militarization. There are no big cities near the DMZ, just scattered outposts. The nearest Kaesong shows up in satellite images as a crumbling patch of gray rooftops, with fewer lights, cars, and visible systems than even South Korea's smallest towns. Number 14. Gibraltar, Spain border. This border might be only 1.2 kilometers or 2 miles long, but few are more visually bizarre or politically charged. Here, the British overseas territory of Gibraltar meets mainland Spain, and what makes it wild is that this international border slices directly across an active airport runway. Cars and pedestrians literally pause at railway-style barriers while planes land and take off. Gibraltar itself is just 6.7 square kilometers at the southern tip of the Iberian Peninsula. Controlled by Britain since the 1713 Treaty of Utrecht, Spain has repeatedly tried to reclaim it. Britain refuses, backed by Gibraltar's own overwhelming support. Cross from Spain, and you're instantly dropped into a mashup of British phone booths, red mailboxes, and fish and chip shops under the blazing Mediterranean sun. Gibraltar uses the pound sterling, has English signage, and enjoys one of Europe's highest GDPs per capita, fueled by gambling, tourism, and finance. From atop the iconic rock you can see Spain, Gibraltar, and even Morocco. But here, a runway isn't just for planes, it's a literal geopolitical barrier. It's a one-of-a-kind border. Number 13. Tijuana, San Diego border. Now looking at this image, we're staring at two drastically different worlds. It might surprise you to learn that Mexico is on the right, unfiltered, vibrant, kinetic. On the other side, San Diego, California, pristine, organized, and intensely monitored. The border between these twin cities, just 20 meters apart, is far more than geopolitical. It's cultural, economic, and environmental, and arguably the most visually weird border contrast in the Western Hemisphere. Thousands of people cross the port of entry daily, making it the most trafficked land border on Earth, and the difference is instant and dramatic. As you drive south from San Diego on I-5, the freeway ends at steel gates lined with license plate scanners, patrol vehicles, and overhead drones. Beyond that, you're thrown into a whirlwind of signs, taco stands, and maze-like off-ramps. But it's not just surface-level contrast. The split is structural. San Diego's median household income is $90,000. In Tijuana, it's just $14,000 to $17,000. The infrastructure gap isn't symbolic, it's systemic. Number 12. UAE, Oman border. In the Arabian Peninsula, the border between the United Arab Emirates and Oman, especially around Al Ain and Buraimi, might be one of the strangest on Earth. This isn't a clean line. It's a looping web of enclaves, checkpoints, and shifting fences. Al-Ain and Brahimi look like one city, but they're not. Their roads and neighborhoods blend, but legally, they're in different countries. Al-Ain, part of Abu Dhabi, is sleek. Malls, glass towers, palm-lined streets. Brahimi, just across, is quieter. Simple markets, low-rise homes, and dusty roads. For decades, locals crossed freely. Brahimi even felt like a suburb of Al-Ain. But in 2006, the UAE put up a border fence. Now visas, checkpoints, and tighter controls define the line. Yet in some spots, the divide is laughably thin. Standing at a roundabout, you can literally see architecture flip from UAE to Oman. Still, life bridges the gap. Cross-border families, workers, and shoppers all flow back and forth. Number 11. Melilla, Morocco border. In North Africa lies a border that contradicts its own geography. The boundary between Morocco and the Spanish enclave of Melilla, though sitting entirely on the African continent, is governed by Spain, enforced by the EU, and defended by NATO. It's one of the most heavily fortified land borders on Earth. Here, the global north meets the global south at street level, and the contrast feels almost dystopian. Melilla is home to around 85,000 people, with Spanish architecture, tapas bars, European hospitals, and a lively seaside promenade. It runs on the euro. It uses EU customs laws. Spanish police patrol its streets, but just blocks inland, you reach Europe's literal edge. Melilla is surrounded by a triple-layer fence that stretches more than 12 kilometers, steel barriers topped with razor wire, flanked by trenches, sensors, floodlights, and cameras. On the Moroccan side, migrants from sub-Saharan Africa wait in hills, preparing for risky mass crossings. Some succeed, others don't. Many are arrested, injured, or worse, yet they keep trying. Number 10. South Africa, Lesotho border. We've seen borders shaped by politics, culture, and war. But this one, between South Africa and the mountain kingdom of Lesotho, is shaped by altitude. Lesotho isn't just landlocked, it's skylocked. The entire country sits above 1,000 meters, making it the world's highest altitude nation. Entering from South Africa means climbing. Literally, Sani Pass, the most extreme checkpoint in Africa, winds through cliffs, ice, and fog. On the South African side, paved roads, fuel stations, GPS, and modern towns roll by. On Lesotho's side, gravel roads, stone huts, no signal, and silence. There are no fences and no guardrails. It's just one brutal mountain path. At the top, a lonely border post, a rusted flagpole, and a worn-out ledger. But Lesotho is proud. It was never formally colonized. It held its borders through treaty, terrain, and unity. Its cold climate gives it snow while South Africa bakes, a few kilometers apart, yet two entirely separate realities. Lesotho isn't behind, it's just higher, and the mountain draws the line for both. Number 9. China, Hong Kong border. Few borders highlight a political collision like the line between mainland China and Hong Kong. While technically part of the same country, they operate like different worlds. At the Lowu pedestrian crossing, it's just a narrow river, the Shenzhen River, but the difference on either side is massive. Hong Kong skyscrapers, British-style laws, uncensored internet, and global finance. Shenzhen high-speed growth, surveillance cameras, and state censorship. Since Britain handed Hong Kong back in 1997, it's operated under the one country, two systems model. That meant different laws, currencies, passports, and freedoms. For years, 200,000 people crossed this border daily for shopping, work, and school. But since the 2020 national security law, that's changed. Protest leaders have been arrested. Chinese authorities now operate in Hong Kong. The border still exists, but its meaning has shifted. It no longer divides two systems. Number 8. Norway, Russia border. Far up in the Arctic, past the 69th parallel, sits one of Europe's most surreal borders. It's where NATO meets Russia, where democracy faces dictatorship, and the contrast is as sharp as the frozen river dividing them. On the Norwegian side near Kirkenes, well-stocked markets, Teslas on clean roads, free Wi-Fi, and residents skiing or fishing. Just across the water in Boris Gleb, Russia, the mood shifts. Brutalist buildings, faded signs, and guards with Kalashnikovs watch over a subdued, heavily policed village. During the Cold War, this was one of Europe's most closely monitored borders. Yet Norway and the USSR manage cooperative relations. The Storskog checkpoint near Kirkenes remains the only legal crossing between NATO and Russia above the Arctic Circle. These days, it's nearly silent. Russia's travel restrictions have left the crossing mostly limited to diplomats and supply routes. There are no walls here, just painted posts, riverbanks, and tension. Freedom and surveillance face each other across 10 meters of icy water, and the silence speaks volumes. Number 7. China-Nepal border. At Earth's highest point sits one of the world's least acknowledged borders. The line separating China and Nepal cuts directly across the summit of Mount Everest. Yes, 8,848 meters above sea level. Geopolitics still applies. Climbers can literally stand with one foot in Tibet, China, and the other in Nepal. But the contrast between the two sides begins far below. On Nepal's side, climbers fly to Kathmandu, then take a flight to Lukla before trekking for nearly 2 weeks through Sherpa villages and temples to base camp. It's crowded, vibrant, and full of life. On the Chinese side, the route starts in Lhasa, then moves to the base camp via road-controlled, militarized, and nearly tourist-free. China issues fewer permits. Surveillance is tight. Even trash is monitored differently. Nepal thrives on Everest tourism. China controls it as a national asset. Number 6. North Korea. China border. Along the Yalu River lies one of the most deceptive borders in the world. From above, it looks ordinary. A river. A bridge. 2 towns. But what it divides couldn't be more different. On China's side, Dandong is a city of 2.5 million, modern, lit up, and active. On the opposite bank sits Sinwiju, North Korea's western gateway, decaying, quiet, and controlled. The two cities are barely 300 meters apart, connected by the Sino-Korean Friendship Bridge. But at night, the contrast is blinding. Dandong's skyline glows with neon, while Sinwiju fades into darkness, barely visible except for scattered dim lights. Trade trucks crawl across the bridge, watched closely on both ends. Foreigners can't cross freely, only diplomats, aid workers, or state-approved visitors. China built a second bridge in 2011 to boost cross-border traffic, but in Sinwiju, it ends abruptly, unused. Locals on the Chinese side walk dogs and take selfies. On the Korean side, it's nothing. Number 5. India-Bangladesh border. So most borders are already bizarre, but this one was practically a geographic brain teaser. For decades in the northeastern district of Cooch Behar, the border between India and Bangladesh wasn't a line. It was a mangled maze of enclaves. Enclaves inside enclaves. Even enclaves inside enclaves. No metaphor here. These were real lived-in areas legally part of one country, but entirely enclosed by the other. It was once dubbed the most complex international border in the world by the Guinness Book of World Records. At its peak, this region held 198 separate enclaves, 106 Indian ones inside Bangladesh, and 92 Bangladeshi ones inside India. Some are no bigger than a field, others are large enough for whole towns. Yet none connected to their own nation. Residents had citizenship but no access to services, hospitals, roads, or law. No schools, no electricity, not even legal birth certificates. All of this was erased in 2015 with the Land Boundary Agreement, 162 enclaves swapped, and 50,000 people finally recognized as citizens. Number 4. United States-Canada border. Picture reading a book where the entrance is in one country and the bookshelves in another. At the border towns of Derby Line, Vermont, and Stansted, Quebec, it's real. The Haskell Free Library and Opera House was built in 1904 directly across the U.S.-Canada line on purpose. Inside, a black line runs through the reading room, marking the exact border. The checkout desk? America. The nonfiction section? Canada. But the border here goes well beyond books. Whole houses, sidewalks, and neighborhoods are sliced by the 45th parallel drawn centuries ago. Some homes literally have kitchens in the US and bedrooms in Canada. For decades, this was charming. People crossed yards, shared barbecues, and kids played across invisible lines. Then came 9/11. Since then, strict border enforcement rolled in: passports, entry points, surveillance. Patrol cars now cruise peaceful streets. Cameras scan faces. Visitors to the library are told not to cross the tape unless they've cleared customs. It's not hostile, just strangely over-defined. Number 3. Brazil. France border. Deep in South America, there's a border so unexpected it feels unreal. Brazil shares a land border, not with a neighboring Latin country, but with France. That's because French Guiana is not independent. It's an overseas department of France, fully governed under EU law. This makes the Brazil-French Guiana border one of the only places where Europe and South America physically touch. On the Brazilian side, towns like Oiapoque are underfunded, informal, and dusty. Cross the Oiapoque River Bridge and you arrive in St. George, a clean, quiet, French-administered town with paved roads, euro currency, and public health care. Until 2017, the only way across was by boat. Then came the Oiapoque Bridge, a 378-meter steel span, and a daily reminder of unequal development. In St. George, police wear French uniforms. Children are EU citizens. But on the Brazilian side, infrastructure is still lacking. Yet the connection is real. Students attend school across the river, French doctors do outreach work, and nature patrols protect a border built over rainforest and contradiction. Number 2. Netherlands. Belgium border. Welcome to the most mind-bending border on the planet. Not a drawn line, but a geopolitical jigsaw buried in the sidewalks, buildings, and doorways of two otherwise quiet European towns. In Baarle-Nassau, Netherlands, and Baarle-Hertog, Belgium, the border doesn't divide. It slices through living rooms, loops through shops, and splits streets, forming a checkerboard of absurdity. Walking through Baarle means stepping over the border dozens of times within a few blocks without ever seeing a fence or booth. But this isn't random. The madness stems from medieval land swaps between the lords of Breda and the dukes of Brabant, which fractured the region into small land fragments. When Belgium became independent in 1831, those quirks became international law. Baarle-Hertog includes 22 Belgian parcels inside Dutch territory. Some have Dutch parcels inside them, creating counter-enclaves. Laws, taxes, alcohol rules, and even store hours can differ across the same wall, and yet it works. This isn't chaos, it's cool. Number 1. Haiti. Dominican Republic border. On the island of Hispaniola in the Caribbean, a single border separates two nations sharing the same landmass but existing in two different universes. To the east, the Dominican Republic, thriving with tourism, lush forests, and a reputation as the Caribbean's vacation hub. To the west, Haiti, battered by poverty, political instability, and disaster after disaster. The contrast here is so jarring, so unmistakably visible, it's often called the world's most obvious border. And it's not just about money. The moment you cross, everything shifts: language, buildings, road quality, vegetation, even the atmosphere. Aerial photos reveal one of the starkest natural contrasts on Earth: the Dominican side thick with trees, thanks to decades of reforestation; the Haitian side barren. You can trace the border by the landscape alone. The Dominican Republic banned charcoal use and restored forests in the 1970s. Haiti, dependent on wood fuel, clear-cuts its hillsides into dust. What you see here isn't past, it's an environmental policy drawn directly from the earth. If you've enjoyed watching this video, be sure to like and subscribe for more amazing content like this. Thanks for hanging with us, and we'll catch you very soon.